Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am so excited to do. I was very excited that Nars said that they were releasing a new foundation, that being the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation. I didn't really feel like I needed another foundation out of the Nars line. I am a big Nars foundation wearer. That's pretty much the only foundations I wear unless it's a skin tint or a tinted moisturizer. But I thought, how is this going to fit in the lineup? So today's video is mainly going to be discussing the differences or not so differences about these two. And at the end, I will summarize whether it's actually worth having both in your collection and how highly I actually rate the Light Reflecting Foundation. So the premise of today will be applying one foundation on one side and the other one on the other and discussing the pros and cons and main points of difference that I've noticed. I've had the Light Reflecting for 2 weeks and I have had Sheer Glow for years, and this has got to be, I don't even know what number bottle at this point. This is definitely one of my favorite foundations. So I'm excited to present to you how I feel like this fits and how it compares to the standard that I hold Nars to. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so as discussed in the intro, the purpose of this video is to really compare the Light Reflecting Foundation and the Sheer Glow Foundation, because I have had the Light Reflecting Foundation for quite a few weeks now, I think around 2, and I do really enjoy this formula, but without comparing the two side by side, I can't decide on my final thoughts. But I thought that would be a good opportunity for me to compare on my face and discuss the pros and cons of each. So let's get into it. I'm going to do the Light Reflecting with a beauty blender on my right side, and I'm going to do the Nars Sheer Glow with a synthetic brush on the left side. Because I'm familiar with these formulas, that is my preference for how these formulas work, as to why I'm choosing the different application tools. I am going to skip primer, but I did want to discuss something that I might have been somewhat gatekeeping to myself, which is the Ordinary Natural Moisturizing Factors with HA. This is a great moisturizer for makeup prep. I honestly find I get quite a lot of blurring and hydration out of this, so I don't always feel like I need a primer with this. I am a primer person, but for these formulas, I don't recommend the types of glowy primers that I have in my collection. I do have a few blurring primers, but they can be very synthetic feeling, and I don't always love that. If I was wearing these foundations on any other day, I would use my Napoleon Purtis Auto Palette Primer. But for the sake of today's video, so you can really see how this goes on fairly natural skin, that is what we're going to do. I am also going to do what I always do and get rid of these under eye bags with my Becca Brightening Under Eye Corrector. Now, this is actually take 2 at filming this, so this video might be a little bit chopped and changed together. But last time my skin was a lot more clear, but this should be good because it will definitely, you'll be able to see which one has more full coverage, because I've got a few spots on this side and I've got a few spots on this side as well, so it should be good to be able to test the coverage. So let's go ahead. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned I've got both shades in Fiji. I do feel like the Light Reflecting is a hair darker, and I will throw a swatch up on the screen now. Now let's do the Light Reflecting on the right side, and let's discuss the pros and cons of the Light Reflecting. So number 1, you're going to see straight away is I don't love the pump on this. You can see how much I'm having to jam my finger down to get a pump out, and then when I do, it spurts out like that. So I really don't like the pump on this foundation. It actually really annoys me, and that would be number 1. Number 2, the smell. So right now I'm really getting intoxicated with it because I'm going around my nose. I really hate the smell of this foundation. It smells like pesticides, like garden pesticide shit. Like, it's kind of gross, and I really wish they had done something about that. I don't like fragranced things, so I don't expect them to cover it up with a fragrance, but I would have liked something to have been done about it. Like, I'm pretty sure you can mute the scent altogether in cosmetics. Okay, the next thing I wanted to note about this foundation is, I must say, if I've had a drier skin day where I have overdone it with skincare, this foundation didn't sit very nicely on top of that kind of irritable skin. That's fairly common if you have dry, irritated skin. Makeup, that's probably the most imperfect base to put makeup onto. So I do find hydration really works. In saying that, an overly glowy base, like I've definitely tried this with Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter and the Auric Glow Lust, and it's too much for this foundation. But as you can see, it is a very, I would say it's underneath medium coverage, because you can see those red spots are still come through quite heavily. Let me zoom you in. Actually, I'm going to do Sheer Glow and then we'll zoom in. So let's do this side now with Sheer Glow. And unfortunately, I don't have anything negative to say about this foundation. This has always been a favorite of mine. That might look like more pumps. I am going for 3 pumps on either side. That looks like more pumps, but this one, you can manage how much you're getting out of a pump. So I'd say that's actually less foundation than I put on that side. And using a brush for this side, and I would definitely say that Fiji in Sheer Glow is lighter. I can see that right now applying it. I do feel like I'm getting more coverage out of this side. As you can see, that big red spot there this was my biggest red spot, and that's far more covered up than my red spots on this side. So Sheer Glow definitely has more coverage. It's a little bit more matte. I always thought the name Sheer Glow was a very interesting name for this foundation, because it's not matte, but it's definitely not glowy by any means, unless you were to put a really quite glowy base underneath, would I then call it glowy. The thing I do like about this foundation, and what the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation lacks, is this foundation is so reliable. I can put it over a bad skin day and it still works, whereas I found if I put the light reflecting on top of a hard skin day, it really doesn't cope so well. So that is the foundation applied. Now, this is my last most important point that I'm going to highlight in the beginning here, is because I prefer a more definitely medium coverage, especially on a day like today where I've got a few spots, I need to go through and put another layer of the light reflecting on. This is an expensive foundation in Australia at Becca. It's 72 Australian dollars, and that is a lot. And I'm needing to use quite a significant amount of product to get to the amount of coverage that I want. And if anyone wants to try, say that I should have used a brush on this side as well, honestly, this foundation's a little bit thinner, and you know, thinner foundations don't apply well or layer well with a brush. So I do feel like a beauty blender is definitely necessary. Yes, the blender is probably soaking up a little bit more of the product than what a brush would, but even so, even when I have tried this with a brush, I still require 2 layers, and then I'm dealing with like streaks and stuff, and it's just more of a headache than what it's worth. So that is now looking like a more even amount of coverage on either side, so therefore it gives it a more level playing field for me when I'm judging. Now I'm just going to go around my chin and hair. Okay, now I feel confident enough to zoom you in, and you can see if you can actually see any. So this is the light reflecting side, and as you can see, I've still got a few spots showing through. That's completely normal for me and most foundations that I use, and it pairs very nicely with the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer 2 Spot Conceal, which I will show you that now as well. I still think that even with 2 layers, Sheer Glow is a little bit more coverage. At this point, Sheer Glow is actually making my pores look a little bit smaller because it's a little bit more less glowy. You know how glowy can reflect off your pores? But knowing this foundation, I know that the real plus of the light reflecting foundation is its wear. It wears extremely beautifully, and you'll see in the check-ins how I go with that. So let's just spot conceal a little bit now. This is the shade Cafe Con Leche, and I find this to be a really good shade match to Fiji for a spot conceal shade. Alright, I am going to pop off and do the rest of my makeup now, and then we can do a few check-ins and then my final thoughts. Okay, so at this stage, while my makeup is finished, I really cannot see a difference between the two, which is so interesting. But yeah, let's see how the check-ins go, and I will be back. But at this point, it's been on for about an hour, and yeah, looks the same. Okay, so this is gonna seem a little out of sequence, but like I said, this is the second time I'm filming this video. So the check-in footage that you will have seen was from the original video because I don't have enough time tonight to do a check-in. But now that I've done them side by side on 2 occasions now, my overall points are the Nars Light Reflecting Foundation has more downfalls than Sheer Glow, in the sense that you need to use more product. I don't like the smell of the product, and the packaging is a fall down with me with the pump. I'll be very interested to know if other people have that issue, or whether I just got a really, really stiff pump. Now, the things that I do like about this foundation in comparison to Sheer Glow is that you can put the cap back on. Now, that, I don't know why, it just frustrates me that you cannot put the Sheer Glow cap back on and you have to buy the pump separately. So that is something that probably makes the price come out much closer, considering you have to buy a pump, but I take the pump out and put it in my new bottle anyway. So in some roundabout way, this one is actually probably better for the environment because you're reusing the pump when you buy a new bottle. When it comes to the initial application, they both look very similar. The light reflecting side is glowier, so if that's something that you want, perhaps you would lean toward that formula. However, the pluses for Sheer Glow is that it's not temperamental. If I have troublesome skin that day, I can just reach for my Sheer Glow and know that nothing's going to go wrong. If I even so much as get a hair wrong with my prep, the light reflecting does not bode so well, to the point where I actually just stick to using either my moisturizer or my Napoleon Perdis and don't really move outside of that now because I'm fearful that it might not look great that day. So far as wear time goes, I do think the light reflecting wears better, and the way it ages is prettier than Sheer Glow. So keep that in mind. What I do like about Sheer Glow is that it's a quicker application to get the amount of coverage that are required with less product as well. So if I was in a rush, I would definitely reach for Sheer Glow. Like you saw in the video, it took me two whole applications to get the coverage that I wanted. So keep that in mind as well. With those points in mind, which one is my favorite? My overall point is that it would be fairly excessive to have both in your collection because they are fairly similar, especially when you have them side by side. Looking again, the light reflecting side is definitely a little bit glowier, but not by enough to warrant having both in your collection. Which one am I going to keep in my collection? It's very hard because I do love how Sheer Glow is quicker and more trustworthy and reliable, and the pump is easier and it doesn't smell. And those downfalls that the light reflecting has, but really on a good day, the light reflecting looks beautiful. It has a very soft focus effect, and like I said, it ages really well in its finish and its look, and it's very youthful and beautiful. But again, side by side, that isn't so noticeable in comparison to Sheer Glow. So I think if there was a gun to my head, I would pick Sheer Glow. I do not promote overconsumption. I think it's really excessive to have both in your collection. If you have Sheer Glow, I would definitely recommend waiting for it to run out before you go out and buy the light reflecting. And again, I would recommend getting a sample because you are dealing with less coverage, and in my opinion, it's fairly temperamental. And with that said, I did want to just take this opportunity to show you where it fits in the whole lineup of Nars foundations. So I'm not sure if anyone remembers this foundation, but I was always a die-hard fan of this. This is called the All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation. I always loved this foundation, however, it creased like a mofo. And then we've also got the very popular Natural Radiant Longwear foundation as well. So I would actually put, so far as coverage goes, your Natural Radiant Longwear definitely goes first. This is one of the highest coverage foundations I have in my collection entirely, so that definitely goes for most coverage. Next would be the All Day Luminous Weightless foundation. Then it would be Sheer Glow, and then it would be the Nars Light Reflecting. So that is where it sits in the Nars foundation lineup. So I hope that helps you in your decision making. If you're a long-time Nars foundation lover like myself, I hope that you find it helpful. And without further ado, have a great weekend wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next one.